Good evening. Welcome to APTN National News. I'm Melissa Ridgen. There's been an alarming increase of violent crime in Winnipeg over the last month, the latest being a 12-year-old boy who died after being stabbed. APTN's Daryl Stranger looks at why this violence could be happening and what's being done to try to stop it.
Winnipeg police have responded to numerous murders and violent crime-related calls over the past few weeks. There have been 11 people killed since mid-May, and this month there have been 4 killings in a 5-day period, the latest being a 12-year-old boy who was stabbed during an altercation by a 19-year-old woman. Kelly Gorkoff is the department chair at the University of Winnipeg's Criminal Justice Department. She thinks part of the reason for the rising crime can be attributed to the change in seasons.
Generally speaking, crime increases in the summer months, and so that's just more of a generalization. Sort of across the board, once the weather warms up, there is an increase in all types of crimes.
But Gorkoff says finding a root cause to the violence is complicated, and there are a variety of factors at play.
When we think about, violent altercations, we can think about it more situationally, right? We can think about the fact that Winnipeg has one of the highest child poverty rates in Canada. We have the lowest minimum wage of any city over 500,000 people. There's a lot of existing marginalization because of things like colonial trauma, and the current situation isn't improving.
Gorkoff added community-based resources could help bring down violence rates. Groups like OPK, they work with Indigenous men who have had involvement with gangs and the criminal justice system, as well as people of all backgrounds and genders in need of assistance.
The message is like, a lot of our people, we suffer from lateral violence, where a lot of the violence that happens comes from our own people. And I'm talking about Indigenous people. And what I want to teach young youth is that, lateral empathy, where we have love and we have empathy for our own people. And from that, being a helper, helping our people comes good things.
Henry McKay knows firsthand the support a group like OPK can do, as they helped him, and now he's trying to give back.
Living in poverty, living in the inner city, I was oppressed. So it was kind of like a spark in my mind where I was like, holy crap, like I gotta work my way out of this. Like I can't be oppressed anymore. I don't want to be oppressed. Like I said, it's empowering, right? So a lot of the work that we do is it's empowerment, and then we're like, okay, you can do the work.
Despite grassroots organizations being in the community, both McKay and Gorkoff say more resources are needed, like mental health supports and drug-related supports like safe injection sites. Without them, they say violence in the city of Winnipeg will continue to happen. Daryl Stranger, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
A First Nation near Calgary will see some of its own members patrolling the community. The Siksika Nation is policed by the RCMP, but next month, peace officers will also be working in the nation, including 3 Siksika members. The officers are being trained and paid through the Solicitor General Peace Officer Program of Alberta. Councillor Ruben Breaker says while Siksika has a good relationship with police, this is a step towards establishing its own force.
With us having peace officers now, they have the ability and authorization to enforce any bylaws that Chief and Council develop.
Well, we've been bringing you stories of survival over the past week after the discovery of 215 graves at the Kamloops Residential School. Tonight is the final installment in that series, and APTN's Tina House sits down with a survivor who went to not one but 2 of these schools, and he's thankful that he's here to tell his story.
Narcisse, a residential school survivor, wrote this song for the 215 children that were found in Kamloops as a way to honor them. Narcisse, now 68 years old, lives just outside of Merritt, BC. He says he lives a peaceful life and enjoys conducting sweat lodge ceremonies in his yard. He says culture keeps him grounded. And just like all the other survivors APTN has spoken with, life before going to residential school was a good life, and they had everything they needed.
I never knew hunger. I drank milk right from the cow. We had fish. We had fish all the time. So and my grandmother, Mama Han, I call her, had a beautiful garden, probably the size of this here, and flowers all around. I did a lot of running. I was like Forrest Gump. Run everywhere, eh? That's why I'm so skinny. But it was a good life, and it all changed.
After his great-grandson asked him one day about residential school, he wasn't sure what to say, so he started writing about his experiences and created this book. On the cover is a picture of him fishing along the riverbank with his granny in happier times, just before he got taken away in 1959 when he was just 5 years old. His traditional name is Tonamsha, but after arriving, he was given the name Arnold. He was put onto a train from where he lived just outside of Lillooet, BC, destined for the St. Joseph's Residential School in Williams Lake, BC. It was his first time he ever left home, and he remembers being really excited because his older brothers were already there. But he couldn't have known that that excitement would soon turn into a nightmare.
It was a constant state of fear. There was never a moment that I can recall that I felt happy.
At the age of 8 years old, he says he was forced to learn how to fight, and that was a way for him to deal with what was happening all around him.
I fought my way to respect, and I had the good fortune of being smart as well.
And like many other survivors' stories, the food they were given at St. Joseph's was inhumane.
I do remember the time that they gave us what was supposed to be pork. It was pig meat that still had hair on it. While they're feeding us this slop, the staff and the supervisors were being fed bacon and eggs and other good food that was delivered to them at the head of the dining area while we watched. So it would come from the kitchen area, go by all us hungry, drooling kids, up to them supervisors and nuns, and they would sit there like kings and queens. So I learned how to steal horse pellets from the barn to eat.
In 1962, Arnie was then transferred to the Kamloops Indian Residential School, and he didn't leave for the next 8 years.
The only analogy I could come up with is an innocent man sentenced to life in prison for a crime he did not commit. A life in prison for a crime he did not commit. And my only crime was being born an Indian.
Narcisse, now a father and grandfather, says he is heartbroken over the discovery in Kamloops.
It should never have happened. And for it to have happened at all is a crime in itself.
With so many survivors coming forward telling their stories with such courage, unwavering strength, and truth to power, prayers for healing is taking place across the nation as we mourn those that never made it home. Tina House, APTN National News, Merritt.
In the wake of that discovery, there are growing calls to cancel Canada Day celebrations. Mark Miller, Minister of Indigenous Services, acknowledges the day will be difficult for many to reconcile and says it should be a time of reflection.
I plan to spend some time with Indigenous peoples on Canada Day. There are many Canadians that want to celebrate what I believe to be one of the best countries in the world. But for many, that isn't the shared reality. And I think that's the diversity of our country. It is, I think, on reflection, it is in part what makes our country able to look at itself and say, we're not perfect. Indeed, there have been atrocities committed on this land, and to reflect upon that.
Carolyn Bennett, the Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations, says she will wear an orange shirt on Canada Day. Well, this just in now, the Federation of Sovereign Indigenous Nations is reporting the discovery of a large number of graves at the former site of the Marvell Residential School on the Cowessess First Nation near Broadview, Saskatchewan. This appears to be a major discovery, and we'll have more on this story in the coming days. Well, we need to take a break, but here's a look at something else we're working on for you.
I'm Lee Wilson, and coming soon, I'll be bringing you the story of a Gitxsan house in British Columbia, which is now controlling access to a forestry road. They say this is not about logging, it is about Indigenous rights.
We have never ever left our lands. Our Jeets and our Yeas taught us about this land.
That story coming soon on APTN National News.
Welcome back. Even as the AFN election race heats up, some are calling for it to be delayed, and there's still a small chance that they could get what they want. Our web reporter Brett Forrester has this story and joins us from Ottawa to break it down. Thanks for joining us, Brett. So take us through this. Who wants to delay the election and why?
Certainly. Well, first you have to think back to last month on May 12th during a meeting of the AFN Executive Committee. A motion was brought forward by BC Regional Chief Terry T.G. to defer the election to a later date. And his reasons were that the AFN needs to consider connectivity, high-speed internet reliability, and other issues like that. But that was defeated but I recently spoke to Chief TG a couple weeks ago, and he confirmed that a motion is going to be brought forward on day one of the AFN Leadership Convention for the chiefs to vote on whether they want to proceed with the election or not.
What are the chances of a delay actually happening?
Well, it's a matter of cold, hard math. Again, the resolution was defeated at the AFN Executive Committee, and TG told me there is still a small chance, and he feels like the Chiefs do want to go ahead with the election, but it's a matter of accountability and transparency and ensuring that the next national chief starts off with a strong mandate. So if this gets put to the Chiefs for a second time, and if they uphold what was voted at the National Executive Committee table, it's going to give the election just that much more legitimacy and authority.
You know, if the resolution does pass, where does that leave us?
Well, it'll be interesting. I mean, they would have to appoint some sort of acting or interim national chief. You will think back to when Sean Atleo stepped down as national chief, there was an interim national chief appointed. To get a sense of what is or isn't allowed, I reached out to lawyer and former judge Mary Ellen Turpel-Lafon. She had written a letter on May 7th urging the AFN to defer, and she said that essentially the resolutions of the chiefs are the ultimate authority. So whatever the chiefs do decide on the convention floor, that's going to be what happens. So as I like to say, this vote is far more complicated than it ought to be for a ballot in which only 634 people get to cast, and it could get a whole lot more complicated.
Well, we will stay tuned. Thanks for bringing us up to speed, Brett. Always good to talk to you.
Thank you.
Well, as we said, that race for National Chief of the Assembly of First Nations is well underway, and if the election does go ahead as planned on July 7th, there are 7 candidates vying to replace Perry Bellegarde as National Chief. Dennis Ward is sitting down with all of them ahead of the election, whether it be on July 7th or postponed, including former Anishinaabe Nation Grand Chief Alvin Fiddler. Here's that interview.
Alvin, thanks for being with us. For the past 5 years, you have been the Grand Chief of Anishinaabe Nation, representing 49 First Nations in Northern Ontario. Why have you decided to run for National Chief of the Assembly of First Nations?
Well, it wasn't an easy decision. It took a while for me to get to the place where I was in a position to put my name forward. As I said before, a lot of long walks and snowshoeing since January, and a lot of phone calls, encouraging phone calls from people I've worked with across the country, encouraging me to run, and speaking with my family and community. That's when we made a decision in early May to put my name forward.
As you no doubt know, balancing the interests of more than 630 nations will be a difficult task. What do you see as some of the priorities for the next National Chief?
Yeah, I acknowledge, there's a lot of differences in terms of priorities, but I think one thing we can all agree on is that we want what is best for our children, our families, and our communities, and that's something that we've really focused on here in the Anishinaabe Nation in my tenure as Grand Chief these past 6 years.
Your campaign material talks about ushering in a new and creating a new vision. What does that look like?
Well, it's, if you break down the work that we've done here in the Anishinaabe Nation with our 49 chiefs and everyone at NAN, you can easily just break it down to 4 things, really. Our land, our children, our communities, and our future.
It could be a bit of a difficult task, not able to travel and meet with people this time around because of the pandemic. What would you like people to know about Alvin Fiddler?
Well, that's obviously different this time around without the big meetings, the big gatherings that we normally have. So a lot of the communications that my campaign team is doing is through Zoom calls like this, lots of phone calls. And I think just looking at the work we've done here at NAN and how proud I am of some of the work we've done here, including keeping our communities safe and healthy during this pandemic, but also at the same time addressing the longstanding issues that we've faced for a long time now. And I think just I would like to believe that the work we've done here speaks for itself and how we've been able to make progress in so many areas.
There's been some calls to push back the election because of the pandemic. Do you know where things are at with that, and would you support postponing the election?
Just in my conversations with many of the chiefs right across the country, I think people are ready for change, that they know that the issues that we are facing now need urgent attention, that we need to address these as quickly as possible, and that we're ready to move forward.
Alvin, we'll have to leave it there, but appreciate you taking some time for us, and good luck.
Thank you so much. Thanks for reaching out.
Time for another break, but still ahead, we'll take you on a journey to harvest teepee poles. Stay with us. Welcome back. It's time now for our photo of the day. Here's a shot taken early Sunday morning, the summer solstice sunrise in Ottawa by Petrie Island. Doug Scriver was conducting a personal ceremony as the sun was rising, and he used a dream catcher to catch this golden sunrise. What a great shot. Please keep them coming. We love to see the beauty that you capture out there. Email them to share@aptn.ca for the chance to be our next photo of the day. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. To the East Coast, 22 in showers for St. John's, 24 in sunshine for Halifax. Happy Valley, Goose Bay, sunny and 23 degrees expected. Kuujjuaq, cloud and 15. Saguenay, 26 in sunshine, 28 in sunny Montreal. Toronto, sunshine, 28 degrees. Sault Ste. Marie, some showers expected and high of 23. 25 and cloud for Thunder Bay, chance of showers. 23 in Sewell Lookout, chance of rain there too. 22 for God's Lake, Norway House and the Paw, sunshine. Sunny and 28 in Winnipeg, Dauphin, 26 in sunshine. 21 with a chance of showers for Swift Current. 25s for North Battleford and Saskatoon, and sunny there. 20 and sunny up in Stony Rapids, 22 in sunshine in Uranium City. Peace River, chance of showers and 27 degrees. 26 and sunny for Fort Chip. 24 in showers for Edmonton and Medicine Hat, 20 in rain there for Calgary. 23 and sunshine for Vancouver, 32 in Penticton, lots of sun there. 17 with a mix of sun and cloud in Prince Rupert, 22 with a mix of sun and cloud in Prince George. Dawson, mix of sun and cloud, 27 degrees. Whitehorse, chance of showers, and 20. Wrigley, 28 and showers. Inuvik, 29 and sunshine. Tuktoyaktuk, 16 and sunshine. Nuyat, 5 and showers. Whale Cove and Chesterfield, both 6 with a chance of showers. Same with Arviat. Clyde River, 7 and sunny. Resolute, 6 and sunshine there. A Piikani man in southern Alberta is hoping to provide a safe space for Indigenous people in Calgary by raising teepees. APTN's Tamara Pimentel is following his journey, which started with the harvesting of poles.
Harvesting teepee poles is a bit of a process, finding the right width and height.
We're not looking for anything perfect, we're looking for what's useful and what works.
Harvesting over 100 teepee poles requires some extra help. When Garrett Smith from Siksika Nation put out a call for extra hands, nearly a dozen Indigenous and non-Indigenous traveled to Siksika from all over southern Alberta to help. The teepees will provide a space in the city to honor residential school victims, survivors, and their families, and provide a safe place to heal.
There's multiple churches and mosques and temples, hundreds in the city of Calgary, but there's nothing in the city's infrastructure that solely supports our basic human right to ceremony, to spirituality, to our own culture, for our right to pray.
Smith led the group in preparing the poles by cutting off the branches, all while sharing Piikani culture and building relationships.
The only way you're going to experience our culture is by coming out to experience it. And our culture is on the land. I think the best way for us to move forward is to build this relationship between Canadians, non-natives, and First Nations here.
After enough poles are harvested, it's time to begin peeling the bark. Scarlett Tustin says this experience taught her more about her own culture, something that she didn't grow up with.
It's unfortunate that so many people that are of Indigenous descent are displaced from community and they don't get to even learn about their own culture. So just the fact that I had that opportunity alone, I learned that by taking down some of the smaller trees, it actually allows for more growth.
The end goal, 120 poles. Smith is still working with the city to come up with a location for the teepees, but the first one is set to be donated to Calgary's Bear Clan Patrol on Canada Day.
Our culture is not in a building. Our culture is not in some room. Our culture is in the teepee. Our culture is in the sweat lodge. And if we can find some way to bring those into the city for those that don't have the means to make it out here, that's something I think that can be very profound for the community of Calgary.
Tamara Pimentel, APTN National News, Siksika Nation.
Well, this just in, the Federation of Sovereign Indigenous Nations has called a press conference tomorrow morning, hosted by the Cowessess First Nation, to publicly announce, quote, the horrific and shocking discovery of hundreds of unmarked graves at the site of the former Maryville Indian Residential School, which operated from 1899 to 1997. FSIN says the number of unmarked graves will be the largest to date announced in Canada. The event will be taking place at 9 a.m. Saskatchewan time. APTN will cover this press conference on our social media page, so be sure to watch there. That is your midweek news. I'm Melissa Ridgen. Thanks for joining us.